Hello everyone, and this is like a mini project within the patterns and textures training. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create like a beach wave shade, like a full animated beach waves. Okay, the setup itself looks fairly simple here, but most of the stuff is happening sort of at warp level. Like you have like two different warps, one for the beach and one for the waves. Even though this is a single piece of geometry, like it's just one grid that is being sort of modified and displaced. So just to sort of explain what I'm going to do, okay, the process is relatively simple. Like we're going to create waves, and we're going to create sand, and then we're going to mix them using like a black and white mask generated by the waves. So the way to do it is we're going to create a ramp. So just to sort of show it as a line, like let's say we have this line, okay, and this line is going to sort of move back and forth. So this is our wave sort of going back and forth. Okay, then we're just going to sort of like give the line a little bit of waviness. Okay, and it's going to generate a gradient starting from like black over here to white, or vice versa, so that it sort of fades in, fades out. And then using this particular sort of mask that is being generated, we're going to mix our waves and the sand. Like that's pretty much it. So to get started, I'm going to create like a blank file, and this is the final result. Like if I do everything right, that's the final result. So this over here, I'm also calculating like curvature on top, which is generating like this foam, but the curvature calculation is the slowest. Okay, so you can use the lab tools. There's a ready-made curvature node, which is what I used. But yeah, that's the slowest part of the whole thing, like in terms of calculation. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this grid and I'll make it like 15 by 10. And I'm going to make, let's do like 50. Yeah, so we'll multiply it by this, so I'll copy parameter, paste relative reference, yeah, into 50. And the same thing here. Yeah, so we have this. Okay, now I'm not going to do UV mapping. What we'll do is we'll generate a gradient based on the bounding box. So I'm just going to come in here and we're going to take a warp. We'll call this waves. This will be our main warp for generating pretty much everything. So the first thing we want to do is, okay, so before I proceed a little further, this is not a beginner level tutorial. Okay, if you're going to follow this, I'm expecting you to have a decent bit of knowledge of Houdini and warps in general. Okay, even though I'm not using anything too fancy, mostly I'm just using like the stuff that we have done, except we'll use turbulent noise, like that's it. But pretty much everything that we've done so far, I have covered in the previous lessons. But as I said, this is not a beginner level tutorial. We're going to be doing it's a fairly complex node setup. Okay, so we're going to firstly, I want to calculate, or I want to get the bounding box of this object, and we want the Z axis. Okay, so take something called relative to bounding box, and it needs the first input, and then we need to extract the Z axis. So take a vector to float. Okay, so take a vector to float, and then if I take the third one and connect to CD, and there you go. So this is fine. Now, and then what I want to do is I just want to reverse it. So I'm going to take a fit range, unclamped, and I'm just going to reverse it because I want black over here and white over here. Okay, now what I want to do is we wanted to move back and forth. So the way we can do that is we can use a ramp node. Okay, so we'll take ramps and I'll drop it in the middle. And you can use the offset to sort of go back and forth. Like this is what we want to do. So the question is, how do you move it back and forth? So if I take a time, like you have time over here, and if I just take the time and I plug it into offset and I press play, you'll see this guy moving. But that's not what we want. What we want is we wanted to move back and forth. So what you can do is, if you put this through a sine function will push the values between, 1 and -1. So it'll sort of go back and forth. Okay, so what I can do is I can take a trigonometric function and just take the time and plug it over here. And what we'll also do is I'm going to add a multiply constant in the middle if I want it faster or slower. So this it sort of just helps you to, like, you're multiplying the time by something. Okay, and then if I take this and I plug it into offset and I press play, you'll start to see a repeat happen. See, it sort of goes back and forth. Now, the problem is, we only wanted to move between a certain range. So what you need to do is you need to take a fit range unclamped in the middle so that we can just adjust the range of it. So what you can do is, like, if I start to take the destination minimum and maximum and sort of just, clamp it down a fair bit, you'll see this is what is going to happen. See. So if I can just sort of, and then as I said, like, if I take this and I multiply it by say 2, you get it faster. But yeah, see, so now I can sort of restrict it within a certain range. Okay, what I can also do is I want to take this ramp value and make the frequency around 0.5 so that it blends a little bit more. Yeah, so this is okay. But let's just sort of, clamp it down a bit more. Yeah, I don't want it to cross back into this. So let me just. What you can also do is to just adjust it a bit. We can, play around with the source minimum maximum as well. Okay, so what I can do is I can just take the source minimum and push it in, like, to around say -1. See, so that way I can, control it a bit more. Yeah, see, so now I'm getting like a wider range of it moving. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay, so the next step is, let's see if I can I put this into a network box? Yeah, okay. And then let's just call this time. Okay, and let's move it down here. Maybe I can color it. Okay. Okay, now the next step is I want to distort this. So the simplest option is I take a turbulent noise and we'll plug in a position over here. Set this to original Perlin. And what I want to do is we'll take a fit range unclamp so I can adjust it a bit if I want to. And then I'll plug it into a multiply constant again. So that if I want, like, that will help me control how much the line will be distorted. If you want all of this at like SOP level, then take a multiply and then connect a parameter to it. I don't want it at SOP level, so this is fine. Okay, so I can just take this and then in the U plug in an add. Okay, so put an add in here and just plug this in. See, so you'll get that. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to take the multiplier down a little bit. The next is like lower the roughness and get the frequency down to around 0.5, which should be good. So now if you play, see, you'll get this. Okay. This is good. Like, we're getting a decent bit of, wave pattern happening. Okay, so this is literally like your basic setup for the whole system. Now, what you want to do is, let's take this much and okay, I'll put in another. I'm going to be a little organized. Usually I don't do this, but since it's going to be like for all of you, it makes sense that I organize it a bit. So let's just call this bounding box Z. Okay, and then this is going to be modified a bit more. So I'll come back to this. Okay, so what I want to do is, let's say we wanted to blend out a bit more. Okay, like, because this is a very sharp line. So if I want to set up gradients or something, it's going to be difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blur value and make it 100. Okay, so you'll get this. Okay, and then what we want is we want two main gradients. Okay, one will be the wave mask, and like if you notice here, like you have the waves, but then you also have the sort of the water which sort of seeps into the sand. Okay, so we need like, so this will be the edge of the wave. Okay, so we want like one mask which is defining the wave, and then we want another one which will help us, make this sort of wetness of the sand. So I'm going to take a ramp parameter and I'll call it waves. Okay, and then this will be a spline ramp, and then I'll do Control C, Control V, and let's call this as wave edge. Okay, and we'll plug in both, one here and one there, and just plug this into CD. Okay, so let's set up the waves first. Okay, so what we'll do is this will be like up over here, and make this into a B spline. Okay, but we want it in the opposite direction. So what you want to do is come back into the waves, and in our bounding box setup, you have this, this EFIT, and I think I'll have to go back to 0 and 1 like that. Yeah, okay. So just take this and, adjust it so it's just like black and white like that. Okay, so if I play this through, okay, let's just come in. So this is the part where you need to sort of adjust it a bit. Okay. So what I need to do is, let's just push this back to around minus 0.7, and we'll push this in a little bit. Okay, let me just check what we're getting. Okay, this is fine, but now, yeah, the reversing should be this way. Okay, I think this is good. I just rotated it around. Like either the waves come from this way or that way, it's fine, yeah, there you go. Okay, so just sort of like, you can adjust the bounding box range based on what you want. Yeah. Okay, and then just sort of bring it in a little bit more. So we can just adjust how much we want the waves to be. Yeah, there you go. See, so this is better. So this is going to be our primary mask. Like, I can just blend this out a little more. So this will be our primary mask for, blending the waves and the sand. Now, along with this, as I said, we also want to create like an edge for the wave. So what we'll do is I'm going to replace this with this guy, which is the wave edge. And let's come up. Okay, and what we want to do is, let's just, like, we'll set 3 points, and I'll just take this and move it up like that. So, yeah, there you go. You can just push it forward a little bit and then push this in. Yeah, and you can sort of blend it out a little bit. Like if you want more of it, see, depending on how much you want. You can try to convert these to like B-spline, so it will be a little more, smoother. Actually, that's not bad. Hold on a second. Let's try something. Let's try to convert this to B-spline. Yeah, this is, oh, okay. This is a much better blend. Yeah, there you go. That looks nice. And then maybe just add a second point here. Yeah, there you go. See, so that looks nice. Okay, so this gives me, my basic 2 waves that we want. Okay. Now, let's start setting up the colors. Okay, the colors and the displacement. So keep this to the side, and let's do one thing. Let's take another ramp, and we'll call this as color ramp, but this will be spline, so that I can sort of just control the, the shading more. And then this will again go into another ramp, which will be like a color. So this will generate the shape of how I want the gradient to be, and that will feed into the color. Okay, so the ramps comes in here, and then, you know, this guy goes in there, and then this finally comes out here to color. Okay. Okay, so roughly the shape will be similar to this, but I just wanted it separate so I can control it separately. Okay, so let's set this to B-spline. Let's bring it this up. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do is, like, this side will be the sand. So I'll just create some, you know, sand like color over here. And then this will be like a blue, and that will be a dark blue. And then what I can also do is I can connect one more here and make it like brighter. So this will be like the foam at the edge. See, so you can just sort of, you know, blend it in, but there you go. See, so this is our basic setup. Yeah, let's just pull this back a little bit. Okay, now the problem is, firstly, the noise really isn't moving. Like, it's a fixed noise that is sort of just moving back and forth. And then the noise itself is pretty basic. Okay, so let's get the noise to be a little more detailed. So what I can do is I can just come in here, and we're going to distort the noise map by distorting the position that is coming in. Okay, so what you can do is take another turbulent noise. Okay, now before that, we want to animate the offset, right? So if I can animate the Z value, see, this animates my noise. Okay, so what you can do is, in a very, very simple way, is I just want to offset the y-axis. Okay, so take a vector to float, or no, sorry, take a float to vector. Okay, so take a float to vector, and I'm going to do a multiply constant. I'm going to take the time, and I'll make it slightly slow. So I'll make it around 0.5. And this goes into the y-axis, and that plugs into the offset. So what will happen is you'll get the noise animating. Okay, so this is cool. Now like all of this will get replicated, and we're going to plug it into our noise. So I'm going to do a Control-C, Control-V. Like, let's pull this back a little bit. This goes in here into, this goes into the offset, but I want to just, you know, modify, you know, a little bit. The position comes in here. Okay, make this into a 3D noise and take sparse convolutions. Okay, and then take an add, okay, into the position of our original noise, and this plugs in over here. And see, there you go. So what will happen is you'll get, you know, a little more detail coming in, but this is not looking very nice. So what we want to do is, firstly, lower the frequency. Secondly, lower the roughness. I'm going in the opposite direction, but that's okay. And then increase the amplitude. So we'll make it around 3. See, so what this does is it gives you these nice little sort of wave patterns happening in here. See, this looks nice. Maybe a little more frequency would be fine. No. Okay. I think around 0.7, 0.8 should be good. Don't give it too much noise. It doesn't look good then. Okay, so like keep it a little low. You can even try doing like a 1D noise, which doesn't look bad either. See, this actually looks nice. So yeah, don't keep, usually you should have a 3D noise because you're adding position, which is a vector. But keeping it to 1D is also fine. Okay, and then what you can do is you can try to play around with attenuation, which gives it a little more sort of contrast. See, but this starts to look weird then. Okay, like that doesn't really look like water, which is not bad actually, because it looks a little bit like foam, like you could generate foam with this. But yeah, let's keep the attenuation around 0.8. So there you go. So you get, you know, like a nice little pattern on the whole thing. In my file, I had taken like 3 of these, you know, like I had distorted this again. So I can just do it like a Control-C, Control-V. If you want to do that further, take another add, just drop it in there. Modify the offsets a little bit and just, you know, plug this in further. See, so there you go. So you get like a little more. And then you can just adjust it a little bit and maybe like lower the amplitude. Yeah, there you go. See, so that looks nice. Okay, now that this is done, let's set up the displacement, because naturally it has to displace the whole thing. Okay, so now what we can do is, now let's take all of this and put it into a network box. Yeah, so we'll take we'll take all of this till here, put it into a network box. Okay, and let's color this to okay, and we'll call it noise. Yeah, so hopefully the file will be easier to understand. All right, so this is done. So now let's set up the displacement. So what I can do is I can take a final ramp. Let's call this as displace, and this comes in here, and then this goes into a displace along normal. So this comes into amount, and that goes in there. Okay, see, so there you go. So now what I can do is I can just come in here, like flip this firstly, so you're getting this, and then just adjust it. So what I can do is I can set them both to B-spline, and then just, like set it up the same way over here like that. You don't have to worry about this because we'll mask it out later, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. And then you can just sort of give it a little bit of like a wave pattern, like this. And what I can do is at the edge, see over here, I can just take this and bring it down, and I can push this up. See, so you'll get something like that. Just push in till it sort of matches the points. Like look here, and where are we? Yeah, okay. So we need to push it back a lot more. Yeah, just adjust the waves till you have something nice looking. You can fade it in a bit more. We can, as I said, we'll be masking it out later, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think we just need to readjust the noises a little bit. Sort of lower the frequencies. Yeah, not 0.9. Yeah, I think 0.5 should be okay. A little more noise should be fine. Yeah, there you go. See. Yeah, okay, there you go. So this is good. Okay, so these are the waves. So we've successfully set up the waves. Now, if you just want to see what it looks like with curvature, what we can do is we can take a curvature node and drop it in, and there you go. So what you can do is we can take we can just keep the convex, and you can see it's immediately slows down. Like this calculation is the slowest, and I realized like tensor integral is the best looking one. You can try the other ones as well, but yeah, like this isn't bad either, but yeah, the tensor integral is the one that I like the most. See, so there you go. So you get like these nice little sort of foam like stuff on it, which we'll add onto the waves later. Okay, so let's just keep this to a side. We don't really need it at the moment. Okay, so this is the waves. Now the next thing we want to set up is the beach. Okay, so let's take another warp node, and what we want to do is we want to create like a wavy pattern for the beach waves. So let's call this as sand, and I'll jump in, and the initial will be the same. So we'll take a relative to bounding box. I'll just drop this in over here, do a vector to float, This is not very difficult, or this isn't as fancy as what the waves stuff was. So we should get this, so this is fine. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to create a ramp parameter. Sorry, we just want to create ramps and plug this in. And let's keep it to mirror, and we'll give it about, let's say 60. Okay, or let's do 30. 30 should be okay. Yeah, you can turn off. Yeah, don't do mirror. Just turn this off. So about 30 should be fine. Okay, so now how do you make it wavy? Okay, so the way you make it wavy is we will offset the ramps using the x-axis, but pushing it through like a trigonometric function. So you push it through a sine wave. So you take this guy, plug it into radians, and then plug that back into offset. Sorry, not blur, into offset. There you go. So you'll start seeing it wave a little bit, and then you increase it and you'll see it become wavy. There you go. So just make it around 50. Okay, and then if you want, you can just sort of multiply it. So do a multiply constant and just lower it so it's not as wavy. So this is step one. Now what we want to do along with this is a few things. Like firstly, the dunes should only be on this side. Like wherever it's water, then it will eventually sort of smoothen out. So we want to multiply it with the base gradient. And then we also want to add some noise to it. Okay, so we'll just take a turbulent noise, and let's just take a position, and let's do an add here. Yeah, so if I just lower this, see, so you'll get that. Okay, you can lower the roughness a little bit, and then keep this to sparse convolutions. Yeah, see, so there you go. Okay, so this is fine. But what I want to do is two things, right? So I have waves here, okay, or I have these sort of sand dune patterns over here. But as the sort of water comes in, I want them to get rougher. Okay, so using this gradient itself, I can control the amplitude and the roughness, right? So what we want to do is that wherever the water starts to increase, the roughness increases, and then the amplitude also increases. So it will eventually just turn into like noise. Okay, so I can just take these two. Maybe we can lower this, and also let's blur this a little bit. So let's make it about 20. Yeah, okay. So what we do is let's take a fit range. We can do a fit range unclamped, okay, and plug in the z-axis and plug this into amplitude. Okay, see, so you're getting this, but it should be the other way around. Okay, so, and then we can just adjust it a little bit, but maybe not that much. Like let's just lower it a little bit. Okay, so this is amplitude. And then do Control C, Control V, and this will be roughness, and that plugs in into roughness. See, so the same thing, except we can just adjust a little bit like that. Yeah, so that's not bad. Okay, now along with this, I also want to give it like a full gradient going from right to left, and then use that to generate colors as well. So what I can do is let's just duplicate this, or let's just take another turbulent noise over here. We'll add these two together, like this one and this one. So this will generate like a secondary noise for me. See, like that. Okay, except this also will do like let's do sparse convolutions. I'll do a fit range unclamped. Just adjust it. And what we want to do is we want to multiply these two together. Okay, so let's just take a multiply. Yeah, but let's do one thing. Let's also like fade this out. So we'll just do a multiply here before that. Yeah, so it sort of just fades out. Maybe let's do one thing. Let's take this ad over here. Yeah, that should be okay. So this will sort of help us. And maybe if you want, what we can also do is we can try to take like a fit range here in the middle. A lot of this is just, I kind of work very intuitively when I'm doing something like this. So it's just like, I'm mixing stuff together based on whatever looks okay. Yeah, like this isn't bad. So what you can do is, like, if you take this and put it into displace along normal, we should start seeing something. So if I take a displace along normal and I plug this in over here to amount, see, there you go. Okay, and then we can just adjust it. See, so you have like, waves, and then let's just take the ramp. Let's do a mirror now. I think this looks better. Let's take it to around 50. And we can try to blur it a little bit more. Or let's turn that off and blur it. Let's try 150. Okay, that's not bad. So you can sort of play around with it and see what you like. Yeah, let's do one final thing. Like, I really don't want it that much. Let's take this guy, this is our Z axis coming in, and plug it in here. Yeah, see, so I can just fade it out. Like, I can kind of decide how much the beach wave should be. Yeah, so it doesn't really like, go in all the way. And let's do one final thing, like, let's keep this. Let's do an ad here. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I think this is better. So the beach waves fade out, into noise, and then let's plug this into amount. Yeah, there you go. See, that's a lot better. So don't do a multiply over there, do an add. And what you also want to do is you want to clamp the color value going out, okay? Because otherwise your color ramp won't fit in properly. So make sure that you clamp this. See, so now it sort of, looks better. Okay, so this is done. Now the only thing we need to do is we need to give it some color. So just take another ramp node and we'll just call this color. Yeah. Okay, and then we can just set up the color. So let's say this is going to be, like sandy, like that. And yeah, and then over here, I can just make it, darker, but a little bit towards blue. So it looks like it's mixing into water. Okay, now let's start. So we have our two things now. So we have our waves over here. Okay, and we have our sand over here. So now let's start to mix everything together. Okay, so this is not going to be very complicated. Firstly, let's do one thing. Let's also, like, we can add some additional detail on this using a curvature map. So let's do a measure, or let's take this itself. We'll do Control C, Control V, and drop this in. So it'll calculate the curvature. See, there you go. Okay, and then we can just take a color node to visualize this. So I can just take a color node and I can color this. So we'll do ramp from attribute and then do, concavity, and then we want to blend these together. So just take a color blend. So this is part of the lab tools. Okay, so just take a labs color blend. and I can just blend these two together, and we'll set it to screen mode. Let's try add. Yeah, there you go. See. And what you can do is you can try to take like a blur. So we can take like an attribute blur in the middle, and we're looking at concavity, right? So do Control C, come in here, Control V. Yeah, so it just sort of blends a little bit. Yeah, so that's not bad. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is I want to get in like the wetness coming in, okay? Because that's not really going to displace anything. It'll just have like this, it'll multiply it with a color. Okay, so what I want to do is we'll take a warp node. So we'll do attribute warp, and I'm going to take the waves in the second and our sand in the first. And you want to do an import. So do import point attribute, and the attribute should be okay. So we haven't set up the attributes, like just the ramp is there, but there's no attribute. Okay, so what you want to do is we want to export the waves and the wave edge. So take a bind export, and we can call this waves. Let's call it waves attrib. Okay, because it's sort of, let me just check if this is still working. It has a tendency to screw up. Yeah, it screwed up. Hold on a second. If the names of two parameters are the same, then it resets the whole thing. So we'll do a B spline and a B spline, and undo doesn't work. Like if you do that, undo doesn't work. You have to sort of go back and rebuild the whole thing. Okay. So this is fine. Okay, and then I want to create another bind export. We'll call it edge attribute, and then this comes in over here. So I should have them. Yeah, there you go. So you have edge and waves. Okay, so come in here. This will be our let's call it wetness. Okay, and let's just jump in here. So import point attribute from the second input, and this will be a float, and we'll call it edge attribute. And if you want to see, it should be there. There you go. So what you want to do is you want to take the basic color, and then let's set up the color for this. Okay, so we'll do a color mix. This comes into bias, and plug that in over there. So this should be white because we're going to multiply it. Okay, and then this should be, let's go slightly reddish like that. Okay, and then take a multiply and multiply it with the existing color. So take CD, this comes in here, and that goes in there, and there you go. See, so you should have, see, this thing sort of, moving in. Let me just take this and make it slightly like the curvature value. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this is fine. Okay, now comes the next setup, which is the main one, which is we need to mix the waves and the actual sand. Okay, so take another warp. So we do an attribute warp, and then again this comes into the second, this comes into the first, and let's call it mix. Okay. So what we're going to do is we need to mix two things. We need to mix in the color and we need to mix in the displacement using the waves map. So I'll again do an import. We'll do import point attribute. We need to import three things. We need to import the position, the color, and the waves attribute. Okay, which is called what? Which is called waves attribute. Okay. So this will be a float. Let's call it waves attribute. This will be the second, and let's call it waves attribute. And then do like Control C, Control V. This will be color. So vector 3 and CD. And then Control C, Control V, and this will be position, and this will be P. Okay. So if we check everything, if I plug this in over here, I should get to see the displacement. If I plug this in, I'll get to see, okay, hold on. Did I change it over there? Yeah, hold on. Okay, just a second. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And then if we check the waves attribute, we should get, sorry, I didn't write the name in the right place. Yeah, waves attribute. Okay. Sorry, I typed it in the file area instead of the attribute area. But yeah, there you go. So everything is in place. Okay, so now the rest is fairly simple. So just take a mix node. Firstly, let's mix the color first. Okay. So we'll take this color and that color and plug in the waves and plug that into CD. And there you go. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Yeah, I keep forgetting to do this. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there you go. See, so, you have your waves coming in. So that's the first thing set up. And then we want the second thing, which is, just a second. Yeah, hold on. Okay, now that we can see it, we might have to adjust this guy a little bit more, so let's just spread this out. Yeah, because we're not seeing the wetness at all. Yeah, there you go. See, so now you can see the wetness. So like once you're done, like once you've started to mix them together, then you want to sort of come in and, just in general, readjust things a bit. Yeah. And then lastly, we want to mix in the position data. So just take this and take another mix. So base position comes on top, and then the second position comes here, and the same thing, like this result comes in over there. That comes into position. There you go. See, so what you'll get is this. So it's a bit much. So you can just sort of, again, as I said, like just go back and make adjustments. What I'll do is I'll attach both the files together, like this one and my original file, just so that you can sort of make some comparisons, because there must be something that I've forgotten. It's a relatively big setup, so I tend to, forget things sometimes. But this is, I think I'm 90% there. Okay. Okay, now let's set up the final thing, which is the slowest bit, which is doing the curvature on this, because that's what generates the foam. Okay, so what I can do is I can just measure curvature. Yeah, see, so this looks very nice, like you get these very nice little sort of foam-like things on top. But what we need to do is we need to add it, but not to the whole thing, right? We only want to add it to the waves, because, this already has its own set of curvature. Okay, so we can take this and then we can take another attribute warp, and I'll plug in this guy into the second. Okay, now what I want to do is I want the waves to sort of, remain here because I'm importing it from the second attribute. So what I can do is I can take a bind export so that it remains as a parameter on this guy. Okay. And I can just call it, let's call it waves and plug it in. Okay. So this will remain, like as an attribute on my main object. So we have this and this, and first I'll do a bind and we'll bring in the, I'll bring in the waves. So if we check it, yeah, there you go. We have the waves. And then let's do import point attribute. Let's do one thing with the curvature, which is fitted between 0 and 1. So you're not getting any, additional values going in. And bring this in and let's call it CD. So we should see our, there you go. Okay, this is fine. And then let's say if we have this guy, if we take a multiply, sorry, if we take an add, let's take an add here. See, so we get this. Hold on, let's turn that off. So this is fine. Okay. But what I want is I only want it here. Okay. So I'm going to take the curvature color that is coming in and I'll multiply it with the waves. So I'll take this guy and multiply it with the waves. See, so now you're only having it here. This is it. The minute you add curvature, you immediately lose out, the real-time feedback that you were getting. Yeah, so then the rest of it is just like, making some minor adjustments. Okay, let me just come back here because, yeah, it just dies. Yeah, I'm just going to come back to the color ramp and make some adjustments. Like, let's push all of this back. Let me just try something. Yeah, there you go. Okay. I was trying to get like a foam line over there. It just wasn't showing up. Yeah, like add a point in the middle. I just bumped it up to 3, which is not, I don't think you need to do that, but yeah, I think like 2 should be good. There you go. Yeah, that looks nice. Yeah, let's just make this darker. Yeah, there you go. So that looks better. And now let's go back to the curvature. Yeah, so there you go. See, so that looks, the curvature does make it look very good. Okay, like it immediately starts to look more like it has foam and stuff on top. Okay. Yeah, so this is a pretty long video. Okay, like I knew it would be long, but now it's like I've been recording for like an hour now. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is how, this is a long process. And the point with this would be like, it might not work for close-ups, but I think if you're doing like an aerial shot of a beach, like, just a helicopter going over something and you don't want to do a lot of simulation work, I think this is a perfectly usable technique. Like if you look at it from far, it'll look pretty decent, and the nice thing is like you can expand it out to whatever you want. So if I make it around like 30, it'll just spread out. So you're not limited to, just like that patch. See, there you go. So you can easily get like a very nice looking, ocean waves without doing any simulation work. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I hope you find this useful. If you have any questions regarding this, you can post it on Patreon, or you can write me an email. And yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. This is, well, I'm going to post this today or tomorrow. So it'll be like 30th of December. So Happy New Year, everyone, and stay safe.